Good morning, All Souls. Welcome to this sanctuary of the Spirit, where we gather in person and online, where we often organize our resistance and always support our resilience, where we celebrate victories and survive our setbacks, where we welcome all that is our life and sing out thanks and praise. I'm Reverend Bill Sinkford. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome everyone to this diverse, spirit-growing, justice-seeking, beloved community of All Souls. Each Sunday, we light our chalice to kindle the flame of community. Our chalice lighters this morning are Elena and Eris Waldron.
We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Amen. Thank you. Let's rise in spirit or in body and join in singing Building Bridges with the Children's Choir.
Good morning, All Souls. I hope that you will draw your attention to the center aisle where our children will lead you in the singing of Building Bridges. And if you feel like making bridges across the aisles between one another, we invite you to do so.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. All of us. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. One more time. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to All Souls Church. My name is Jana Owens. I am today's worship associate. My pronouns are she and her. By being a worship associate, I get to greet you and welcome you. We gather at All Souls in person or on Zoom virtually, where we welcome all genders, gender identities, sexual orientations, abilities, races, religions. We gather to be present with ourselves and with others, accepting each of us as we are today and on this day which has been given to us. We also gather to celebrate our successes with others and to seek comfort when we're in pain. And you know, this week, have you noticed some successes out there in the world? Democracy is thriving again. I'd like to extend a special welcome today to those of us who are new to All Souls, or you still feel new. If it's your first time or so here, I invite you to raise your hand or even stand up as you are able so that we can give you a warm All Souls welcome. Do we have visitors today? Yay! We will have coffee after services, so please feel free to hang around and visit with some of us after services so we can welcome you some more. Now, if you're here in the sanctuary and you did not get a printed order of service, there's a QR code on the back of the pew in front of you. I think it's the one on the right now. They've changed the stickers that you can click on with your mobile device and open it. If you are on Zoom, there's a link in the chat window. If you don't currently receive our weekly email newsletter, you should sign up for it. That's the way to know about the upcoming offerings of our church community. So if you don't currently receive it, you can go to the homepage of the All Souls website and click on a link there and sign up for it. All Souls recognizes that the city and our church were built on lands taken from indigenous people, and we lament this injustice. The closest village to our church site was Nacotchtank, from which the name Anacostia is derived, and the residents were part of the Piscataway group of tribes present in DC and Maryland areas. Then those people remain here today. If you're joining us from further away, I encourage you to research the native people on the land where you reside. And for those of us who are not native to this land, one way to practice our commitment to our 8th principle is to find out what native organizing is happening in your area and how you can support it. Now is the time for what we call our beholding, where we greet and behold one another, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're here in the sanctuary. If you're on Zoom, I encourage you to turn on your camera and go to the gallery view and wave at each other and text each other. If you're here in the sanctuary, turn around and wave at the cameras on the back there. And if you don't realize it, we have big screens here if you're on Zoom, and we can see you guys on the gallery view, so let's all wave. So let's take a couple of minutes, let's move around and greet each other, fist bump, elbow bump, hug, bow, whatever is comfortable for you. Let's greet. It's a lively crowd today. Thank you all. I encourage you to continue your conversations and greetings after services over coffee in Pierce Hall. And again, welcome to All Souls Church.
Up for Ben Stockton, one of our high school students who played the Main Street music this morning. First time! And let's just keep that love train going because we have lots of special surprises for you today with our youth choir singing. Some of them, it's their very first time, so can we give them all the love and support? Thank you.
Hello. I am Reverend Rob Keithan. I use he, him pronouns. I have the honor of serving as your Minister of Social Justice. I have many happy faces on me today from my 4-year-old, and I thought for about a half second about taking them off, and then was like, oh no, I'm taking all the happy faces today. Even got a few more here. So, little extra joy on a Sunday morning where the weather actually feels like the season we're in for a change. So, I have a few announcements for the good of the order today, starting with news from the REEB Project for voting rights. Woo! So, alas, gone are the days when our elections are actually decided on Election Day. The race continues for the Georgia Senate seat, and so today kicks off the REEB Project's postcarding campaign for the runoff election. Also, today's coffee hour is sponsored by the REEB Project generally as a thanks for all the volunteers, the hours spent getting out the vote this year. If you volunteered with the REEB Voting Rights Project in any way this year, whether you're in the sanctuary or on Zoom, could you raise your hand so we can give you some applause? Thank you. And for folks who haven't raised their hand yet, please stop by the REEB table after the service and pick up your postcards for the runoff. We have until November 23rd to get as many in the mail as we can. Also on site here after the service today, there will be a meet and greet of the Rainbow Souls. Come to the Longfellow Room on the second floor after the service for a chance to meet with LGBTQIA+ folks from the congregation and staff and talk about regathering in this church year. The other event happening on site today is this evening at 7 p.m. when the Nights of Grief and Mystery Tour from Canada makes a stop at All Souls. This powerful blend of spoken word and live music is a continuation into the inquiry into dying wise, our theme from Sunday, October 30th. Tickets are required and are still available for purchase from the calendar on the All Souls website. And there are 2 other important upcoming events as well. All are encouraged to participate in this year's Thanksgiving food collection, which benefits 3 long-term partner organizations in the community: Beacon House Community Ministry, Columbia Heights Village, and La Clinica del Pueblo. We have made it easier than ever to donate food items. There's even an Amazon wish list. You can start donating now, and we welcome volunteers on Sunday, November 20th also. You can find details in the weekly email or on the website. And finally, there is one more very significant milestone celebration coming up: the 45th anniversary of the Jubilee Singers. All are invited to their concert on Saturday, December 3rd at 7 p.m., which will feature both longtime favorites and several new songs. Tickets are $20 and available on the church calendar. Reduced or free tickets are available by emailing Gary Penn, and we also invite you to consider making an additional donation to celebrate 45 years of powerful, liberating music. As we shift to our congregational concerns, we start with a recognition of Veterans Day and remembering all those individuals and families who have offered military service to the country. Much appreciation to you. Taylor Johnson, requests congregational prayers and healing vibes for his sister Holly, who has just come through knee replacement surgery. We send Holly strength for her rehab journey. We're also thinking of Susan Milner, who has been in Columbus, Ohio with her father. He is in hospice evaluation, but trying new dialysis treatment for kidney support. We send love and prayers to Susan, her father, and their extended family as they weigh options in this difficult time. In the silence that follows, please speak aloud or write into the chat the names you carry on your hearts this morning. Please join me in prayer. Great Spirit, source of love and resistance and resilience, as we face the complexity and challenges of our world, help us to remember that we are not the first, and nor will we be the last to navigate these paths. Friday, November 11th, 2022, was the 201st anniversary of this congregation. This community, we can clap during prayers, that's okay. This community has never been perfect, and it never will be. But nonetheless, it survives because of the people who believe in its mission, who believe in its calling, who believe in its potential, people who believe in each other. Great Spirit, remind us that we are part of a community, part of a tradition that has embraced complexity and overcome challenges for more than 200 years. And so as we leave behind our bicentennial year and enter our 201st, let our hearts and minds and spirits be motivated by all who came before. Let us celebrate all they did and take up the work that is ours to do now. Our neighborhood still needs us. Our city still needs us. Our country, our democracy still needs us. And we still need each other. Amen.
It is not at all clear to me that we need much preaching this morning. After the drumming and the children's choir, that lovely prayer, Rob, thank you. But since I'm here, this recipe has been tweaked over time, so adjust as necessary. Sometimes it yields more servings than anticipated. Sometimes it needs a bit more of this ingredient or that. It comes from generations who have gone before me, and I've added my own flavor along the way. A recipe for resilience. 1 part courage. 2 parts tears of failure and doubt. 1 part deep listening. 1 part each of both silence and laughter, a dash of trust, a pinch of wonder, a heaping scoop of naps and snacks. In a separate bowl, mix together family, friends, and those who challenge you to be your best self with whom you disagree. Add slowly to the larger pot, add a bay leaf for whatever bay leaves do. And let simmer for as long as you need, which is often longer than you realize or anticipate. Keep the heat at an even temperature, hot enough to cook throughout, but not so hot it burns the bottom. Can be served at room temperature, warm or even cold if necessary. Serve alongside your favorite soft blanket, dog, cat, or other soft item. Make often, share with others, and hold on to the leftovers. You will need them after a long day that challenges your soul. A long day that challenges your soul, a long season that has challenged all of our souls. Been down so long it looks like up to me. Do you know that expression? There are times in all of our lives when a recipe for resilience seems like the thing we most need. When, despite all of our efforts, the burdens we carry just don't seem to be getting any lighter. Times when we know we just need to keep on keeping on. Resilience is about the practices we need to stay the course, about surviving for the long haul, about finding ways to thrive in a world where oppression persists, despite the victories we work so hard for. We need resilience to live in a world where injustice and hard times continue, but in which we refuse to accept violence to the body and violence to the spirit as the last word. A world in which building beloved community is not ever one and done. We need it for this world. Reverend Betsy Stevens, writing after the 2018 midterm elections, wrote this: I know you were hoping for a one and done, for an earthquake, a tsunami, hoping if we gave it our all, a single push would be enough, that after this we could sink back into the comfort of our privilege. And I confess in the secret corners of my heart, I wanted to believe it could be that easy. Me too. The counting of the ballots in the midterm election is still going on, but control of the Senate will remain in Democrat hands. Amen. Though we are rigorously nonpartisan in here. I mean that. But control of the House is not entirely clear yet. And as Rob said, there's going to be another runoff election in Georgia within weeks. Now, some of us may be elated, apparently quite a few of us. Some of us disappointed for one reason or another. But frankly, many of us are just relieved that the promised red wave seems not to have amounted to much of a ripple. Welcome to election season, in our still somewhat democratic republic. Political victories and defeats, winning and losing, well, we do not live in a one-and-done world. But there are inflection points, yes? Kairos moments when changes that have been building begin to crystallize into new creations. This happens in our national life as well as in our personal space. And we may be living in such a time when a vision for a vibrant, pluralistic future finally replaces the hope of returning to a lost Eden of homogeneity that never existed. It's possible that we could be living through the birth pains of such a change. But the outcome is not certain. And the rearguard action, the resistance to that change, is deep, determined, and widespread. We may be living through such a time, but please don't allow yourself to think that any part of this change will be one and done. Any more than Roe v. Wade guaranteed reproductive justice, any more than Brown v. Board ended segregation. I'm going to use the example of the Brown decision in order to highlight the need for both resistance and resilience, and to set the stage for returning to my sermon of last week, to the question of the choices we face and the spiritual challenges in moving toward our vision of beloved community. Because these pivot point moments get embodied in specific strategies, in concrete interpretations of what is good. Now, that makes sense, right? The broad principles have to become more specific, right? But those interpretations also shape the way that movement toward the good gets resisted. So, here goes. The Brown decision in 1954 declared racial segregation, separate but equal, unconstitutional. Here's the language. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. One and done, right? Segregation and inequality declared unconstitutional, a thing of the past, right? Not exactly how it worked. Now, we could have a real conversation about that term inherently. We could. But what most of us look back to Brown for is the affirmation of equality. Equality of opportunity, if not of outcome. Equality as a value and a standard, at least in our aspiration. But it was far from one and done. I went to segregated schools in North Carolina well after the Brown decision. Resistance to Brown was widespread, despite the court's instruction to move with all deliberate speed. You remember that, some of you? Prince George's County just closed all of its schools rather than desegregate them. So equality was the value, integration was the interpretation of that value, and forced busing was the strategy used in many communities to achieve it. And it didn't work. Because white families fled to ever more distant suburbs. It was that white flight that fueled the success of All Souls in planting UU congregations in the DC suburbs. All Souls has a part to play in this story. That strategy, that interpretation with integration as the means, bumped right up against the structures of our world. 20 years after Brown, 1974, the court decided a case called Milliken v. Bradley. A local court in Detroit, struggling with integration, in response to the white flight from the central city, tried to create school districts that crossed municipal lines, districts that included the suburbs as well as the city. From the Milliken opinion, to approve the cross-district remedy ordered by the court would impose on the outlying districts, on the suburbs, which have not been shown to have committed any constitutional violation, a wholly impermissible remedy. The suburbs, you see, had not refused any education to any black kids, hadn't forced black kids into substandard schools. Why should they be penalized for the problems of the city? The strategy to correct inequality, the interpretation of that equality, of what that equality should look like, ran headlong into the structures of power and privilege of the suburban municipalities. Milliken guaranteed the failure of Brown as a strategy to achieve integration. Now, there's more to the story, of course. The federal investment in the highways that allowed the suburbs to expand, the redlining that prevented housing integration, there's a lot more. But my point this morning is that the choice for equality got interpreted in particular strategies, and it was those strategies that generated the resistance, and that resistance was successful. So, let me bring this back to our story here at All Souls. Last Sunday, I preached about how important the freedom to make choices is to this faith. But how, if we take our commitments seriously, we don't have a choice about some things. We're already committed to answering the call of love. That decision for us is already made. But that's not the end of the story, because there is resistance to that vision, and structures in our world, and even in some of the habits in ourselves, resistance that works against that vision. There are battles for reproductive justice and voting access, and, well, you know the list as well as I do. Battles that encourage us to view the world in terms of winners and losers. It's almost as if we haven't gotten the message that in our vision of beloved community, our commitment to a community worthy of being called beloved, that our vision is for a world without any losers. It's a vision for a world in which we're all winners, all living lives that resist oppression, all living with enough resources so that equality of opportunity might actually have some real meaning. The world of winners and losers denies the fundamental truth that we are bound in an inescapable network of mutuality, as Dr. King preached, in that interconnected web in the language of our UU principles. The notion of winning and losing needs to be replaced with the focus of moving toward our collective liberation as we answer the call of love, toward becoming a diverse, spirit-growing, justice-seeking, beloved community. So here's the question. What would that look like to us? Or to put it in the framework of this sermon and the governance commitments of this congregation, what interpretation of that vision will we embrace today? What discernment, and yes, what debate must our covenant be strong enough to hold as we develop interpretations of what it would look like if we were actually living into that vision? This year, here at All Souls, even as we deal with financial challenges and the uncertainties of regathering into a new hybrid, physical and virtual space, even as we hold more truth about the history of this great church and prepare for its next chapters, this year, the executive team and the board have been working on interpretations of those new church goals that grew out of the Imagining the Future process last year. Do you remember that process, most of you? A few heads nod. The goals are broad and they're inspirational. But what could they mean in practice? For example, what does the goal to become a multicultural, multiracial, and multi-generational spiritual community grounded in authentic relationships, trust, and belonging. What does that goal call us to be today and plan to become tomorrow? How will All Souls deal with our various identities and with representation of those identities in our leadership groups from this pulpit? The world, you know, has gotten the message that representation is critical. But both Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker would both check that box. I'm just saying. Multicultural community, that's just the first of the 7 goals. When we talk about welcoming all people of goodwill, what would radical hospitality look like on Sunday morning? And who are those people of goodwill anyway? Just those of us who have gathered here? I could go through all 7 of the goals asking questions like those, but you get a sense of the importance that these interpretations can have if we're willing to follow where our best answers can lead us. The executive team, let me break that down. That's the senior minister, that's me this year, and the executive director, that's Tracy Hughes. We're human persons, not just roles, by the way. The executive team is required to present interpretations of those 7 new goals to the board for approval. But we've invited all of the program staff to help us develop them, and we've done 3 so far. And those staff conversations and the board discussions that have followed have been rich. They have been so very much worth the time. And we're beginning to invite other lay leaders and ministry groups into that process as well. Adrienne Marie Brown tells us that there is always time for the right work. We'll take almost the whole year to develop these interpretations, including time in the spring to look at the 7 of them as a whole, to look for relationships where synergy can help us, and for places where contradictions and resource limitations may require some further discernment, and to look with the 8th principle lens to see what structures we may be bumping up against, what habits and practices may need to change for us to move forward. And I promise you we will find many ways to report out the results of this process as it unfolds. This is the work called governance, the work of making concrete our visioning and inspecting our practices. And this is spiritual work. It's the work of preparing all souls for a ministry that can thrive. But governance work does not inspire all of us. The prospect of going to a bylaws revision meeting does not bring a smile to every face, I grant you. And it can really challenge the activists among us and the activists within each of us that's just ready to get on with the work. Come on, can't we just get on with it? The work on governance can even encourage us to believe that structures and policies can guarantee a hopeful future, can guarantee that conflicts will be avoided. But you know and I know that the church is a human institution, and though policies are of real value, the relational system, the quality of connections and interconnections, that's where the spiritual life of this congregation takes place. So our work on governance needs to include community building at its very core. There's one more statement from Adrienne Marie Brown that I hope we can hold as we move through this year. She writes, "What you pay attention to grows. What you pay attention to is what grows." It is in doing the work, truly asking how love calls us to live. It is in rejecting the idea that any of us have to lose for all of us to win. It's in the radical notion that we are all in this together, and the radical proposition that resilience is just what we do here and how we live. It's in the embodied truth of our commitments that we will find our blessing and discover that we are already winners, already blessed with all we need right here to bless the world. Ashe and amen.
This morning, as I was driving to church, I started thinking about it. When did I first start coming to All Souls? And I think I calculated it correctly. My first Sunday was August 13th, 2000. And I signed the membership book the next May, so I've been a member of All Souls for over 21 years. Most of that time I've been pretty active, but there was a period when I just didn't come much for a while, I think actually a few years. And then after I came back for a couple or 3 consecutive Sundays, I was like, what was wrong with me? Why did I stop attending regularly? And then when COVID happened and we were all quarantined, did I ever miss coming to church and seeing my fellow church members? Where else can we find such a large, extended family that shares our values and provides support when we need it? Sundays at All Souls really get my week started off on the right foot. All Souls reinforces how I want to live my life. This is why when a few weeks ago I got a check in the mail, I inherited part of an annuity from my mother when she passed away. I deposited the check and then I turned around and I went online and I donated that amount to help reduce our current deficit. So as the plates pass this morning, please consider what All Souls means to you and give as generously as you can. There are several ways you can donate. One is put money in the plate as it passes. If you have an order of service, or if you're online, look in the chat window, you'll see 2 QR codes. Somebody near you may have an order of service. If you click on one with your mobile device, that's to help with the church's budget deficit. And the other QR code is for the collection plate today. So please, give as generously as you can.
Don't lose all your steam now. Can we rise and body our spirit for our closing hymn? This is a very special, sweet song. You might want to feel your hand on your heart. Our youth choirs are going to lead you in the chorus. Miss Rochelle and I are going to sing the verses, and then be ready to join us in singing of the choruses. We're going to sing it once for you, and then you can join us.
I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
Join us.
I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. No matter where you go, no matter where you've been, you'll never go alone. I feel you deep within. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. No matter what you feel or what you choose to show, I'm always there with you, and I want you to know I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I walk the path with you. Go slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. One more time. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
In a world that insists on winners and losers, may we be those who heal and hold and hope. May we be some of those who keep a light burning for all those down in the valley trying to get home, even when we are those who need the light. May that be so, and amen.
Give you a little backstory on this song. Miss Rochelle and I have both been suffering from laryngitis this whole week. And then you add that to the fact that we're all about to choke up trying to sing these songs to our little babies. So you'll bear with us and you'll grin with us.
First thing that you'll notice is some separation from each other. Yes, it's a lie we've been believing since time immemorial. There was an apple, there was a snake, there was division. There was a split, there was became two, and then everyone was out for themselves. Everyone was pitted against each other. Conflict ruled the realm. All our devotions and temperaments are pulled from different wells. We seem to easily forget we are made of the same cells. To my boy, all that energy so vital of your hues and your blues in equal measure, your comings and your goings away. My mission is to keep the light in your eyes ablaze.